Hiarna sa Christ, Mock Day, Jane Choker Piakuk. So I hope everybody's chill and happy after the fuel protests. Very interesting developments there. And if you're wondering how successful those protests are going to be, let's talk about the new migration laws that will be coming in. So, the International Protection Bill has been officially signed into law. President Catherine Connolly, who I consider to be an illegitimate president, has officially signed the International Protection Bill into law last Wednesday. This was following a 3-hour meeting with the Council of State to consider its constitutionality. The president eventually gave in and did not refer the bill to the Supreme Court, but it is not closed off for future legal challenges, as individuals and groups can still challenge the law to the Supreme Court. Now, why did she decide to have a 3-hour meeting to try and stop the International Protection Bill and didn't do anything to prevent the Irish government using the army against its own people during the fuel protests? At no point did she try to communicate or talk with the protesters, and the Garda were clearly allowing counter-protests to physically assault protesters such as myself, that is a ongoing investigation. Hopefully we'll be talking more about that during the year. So this legislation will be bringing arms laws in line with the EU Migration and Asylum Pact, which will come in effect on the 12th of June 2006. Now, on one hand, we don't like the EU Migration Asylum Pact because it takes discussion away from migration, away from Irish people and to a bunch of Germans somewhere that don't care about our culture. On a positive note, that there will be now some migration control measures that the EU is imposing, and so it's like, yeah, the EU take it, and the EU give it sometimes. So there's going to be a mandatory 30-day limit for decision making. You could imagine in some cases this would speed up the application process. For some people, that means that they get to come to Ireland faster. In other cases, that will mean that they'll be deported faster. So it's sort of like, in some ways good, in some ways bad. I would refer to that one as a good. Moving into a dystopian part of the bill, the mandatory biometrics, compulsory fingerprinting and photographing of all applicants for the Eurodac database. That is a bit creepy, but if someone's coming to my country illegally, I don't really care. We've had situations where refugees in London have carried out stabbing attacks. Then they just come to Ireland and carry out stabbing attacks. So I care for the Irish people, don't care so much about refugees, but as you've seen in previous videos, I'm happy to be friendly with Africans and Iranians who fit within our cultural norms. Of course, there's going to be enhanced screening. Okay, hopefully that is good, and that doesn't lead to enhanced bribes at the border, which has happened before. And revoking refugee status in case of serious crime and national security threats. We've actually used similar measures against Palestinians coming here. So I would say, let's say the EU Migration Pact is a bit controversial, but this bill I very much support. So gorgeous to Jim McCallaghan for getting this through. I will always applaud the government when they bring in stricter laws in general, and particularly stricter border control, which we all love and enjoy. So let's look at the International Protection Accommodation Service, IPAS. There is currently 33,000 people residing in the state, living in 305 centres nationwide. Under 10,000 of that are children. So since the specific IPAS system started, that's 110,000 refugees come to Ireland since the past 4 years. That's so we have a small town of refugees at the moment. In total, we have a small city of refugees coming in the past 4 years. And I mean, obviously, if you go back 10 years, there could be like close to 1 million. So it's like we have quite a lot of refugees, or lots of Irish people who are actually refugees but have citizenship status. Positive note that there has been a drop in new applications. There's been a 30% drop compared to 24. So we have less refugees coming in. That is good. I will always be happy with things that are good. We don't know how many illegals there are here. We don't know how many illegals there are here. There could be more illegals than there are refugees. There's quite a lot of Arab-looking Ukrainians that has been reported on before. Voluntary returns have increased by 72%. I mean, it's just less than 2,000 people. And 205 illegals have been deported. 205 deportations is better than no deportations. That is what I am going to say about that. What's Hicka saying? According to Hicka, there has been critical failures in the vulnerability assessments. So these places, I mean, we know ourselves. I've been down to the fire station on Pier Street with people from East Wall, and some of these migrant centres do not have fire certs. We've seen ourselves in the IPAS centre in East Wall that people are cooking and having open fires in these IPAS centres, which is one of the reasons why we don't like them. How's it going, Kieran? How's it going, Paul? How's it going, Carl? How's it going, Adam? Yeah, make some comments along the way, and I'll catch them as we get to the end. That is the end of my report. Oh, no, wait. We've got more. Actually, no, it's not the end of the report. We have more migration control coming in. So beyond this particular bill, the Garda and Garda Síochána said they're in favour of recording the ethnicity of suspects and sex offenders on the pulse system. So, yeah, so people's PPS numbers will be recorded in the pulse system. So that we will know how many criminals have citizenship or not citizenship. So that wouldn't necessarily tell us how much are ethnically Irish, as in native-born Irish people, but at least we'll have some indication of, are they refugees or illegals? Right, like the guy yesterday who was found with a large knife in North Strand, and patriots were throwing chairs at him in the shop. Yeah, so it is actually quite shocking to tell you that citizens who've come under international protection, they can get citizenship in Ireland. So they can come here legally and get citizenship. At least that has been extended from 3 years to 5 years. I'd say nobody who comes here as a refugee should be given citizenship. That's just... That just means anyone can just crash their boat and poof, in 5 years' time they're an Irishman. That's absolutely nonsense. And like I said, the nationalist community are making friends with the African community, friendly with the Iranian community. There's migrants we like, there's migrants we don't like. We can openly say that. This is our country. If an Irishman throws a brick at a Garda, I don't like them. If a migrant throws a brick at an Irishman, I don't like them. Very, very simple. You apply the same reasoning to Irish people, foreign people. It's very easy to work out who should be here and should not be here, right? Certain Irish people should be in jail. Certain migrants should be deported. It's very, very, very sensible. The same thing to say. And there's something. Oh, the threshold for salaries. Interesting. There's something. Here's a new one to look into. The new salary threshold for employment permits took effect in March, with further phases increased planned to align with cost of living. Okay, maybe that will mean we'll have less migrants coming in, going for the low income jobs. I know people say we need more migrants in to work in low income jobs, but like I'm on a really long waiting list for this public sector job that I thought I'd have a few months ago. I don't want more competition. I don't want cheap IT workers coming here competing with me because we can't compete with them. They're getting free housing. They have extra political status, and you just can't compete with cheap IT workers. So I would say, as a whole, those new migration controls coming in are a positive. So I'd say congrats to the Irish government for doing something. And they're only doing something because patriots protested against the IPAS centres en masse. I think we've had like 30 to 100,000 people at a protest at one particular time. The vast majority of Irish people want less people here. No more digger. So you're saying no more diggers. We don't need more people coming here to fulfill low-income manual labour jobs. We have Irish people that want those jobs. What's the point in us getting degrees in software and there's no software jobs? We could just do... I'd rather just do a low-income manual labour job instead of wasting my time getting a degree in software, applying for public sector jobs, and then I have to like compete with people who get free housing. So yeah. So yeah, quite content with that. Bro is Trump. Yeah, I like Trump. Like when some of these like far left and like neo-Nazis complain about Trump, I'm like, I'm an Irishman, I'm allowed to like Trump. Like, I didn't like Obama. If an Irish person likes Obama, I don't care. Like, we're allowed to have different political opinions. Yeah. So all in all, I'm very happy with those improvements. I thank you to... How's it going, Mouse? Putting up the prices of fuel. You're blaming Trump for putting up the prices of fuel. So how come France fuel is half the price than in Ireland? Because France has less taxes on fuel. The carbon tax is less of a problem for them because they have an empire to extract resources from around the world, and they have nuclear power. Ireland could drill its oil and build, say, 2 modular nuclear power stations, and the price of fuel would be like 50 cents per litre instead of... I didn't check what it was today. Last time I checked, it was... $83 per barrel. Yeah, those numbers change every day, but it's not. We're not even on the record highs, and plus, Iran has been blocking up the Strait of Hormuz and bombing those ships for 3 years, and Iran is funding terrorist organizations to mess up with our supply chains. So, like, you have to bomb Iran. Most Iranians want Iran to be bombed, so it's like it's a no-brainer. Yeah, so $1.80 or euro per liter. I didn't check those numbers today because I was talking about the international protection bill. There's no point in me checking the prices of oil, but like the price of oil in France is half of Ireland. You know, like, why is that? because they have nuclear power. It's that simple. So if we wanted cheaper oil, we could just come together as a nation and discuss this topic and do what has worked in the past instead of... Yeah, it's social market theory nonsense. That's really Ireland's problem. Like, ever since the bank bailouts and the Lisbon Treaty, the EU has adopted an economic strategy called social market economics, where everything is just tax regulated and you get subsidies. So we pay, let's say, more than 2/3 of our wealth in tax, and then the government then decides what we're allowed to buy. That's effectively social market economics, which is nonsense, because as I've been saying since 2008, that bank bailouts and this social market economy nonsense, it makes economic calculation really difficult, and ordinary people can't plan in advance because the government just makes up crazy policies on a whim. So that's all the messages in the chat. Hope you enjoyed it, Paulo and Maria, Melissa. So, make nuclear bombs take over England, then more oil. I'd be completely opposed to nuking England. They're beside us, so that idea. Yes, I'm getting high. I don't know what that means. Yeah, and love you, British people. I'm this weekend. I'm spending a lot of time with English and Israeli people, playing strategy games. So that person is obviously not being. It's gone, Don Pedro. You're just in time to finishing off. Let Snake go. Off with a prayer, because is that showing? There we go. Nahar, Atá Nave, go Néfar de Adam, go Chogda de Riach, go Dainter de Hell, Tolv Mar Dainter Nave, Mar Naron Lahul Haber, Din Inu, August Mot Dinne Viacha, Mar a Mohammeda, Dar Vegna Fain, Ach, Na Lig Shin, Ikaul, Ach Ser Shin Ulk. Amen. Rav Magat Son of Waya Suas na Publica.